What's up, everybody? We are back with another edition of the Ad Podcast. And today I have a super exciting guest for you guys. Brandon Epstein is a high performance and mental coach. He coaches on the regular athletes from the NFL, Major League Baseball, UFC, high functioning entrepreneurs, artists, creatives, peoples of all walks of living, trying to live their best lives and execute at a very high level. He's also built an amazing social media following, so he's got a lot to talk about from the perspective of marketing and how he executes as a creator in his own business. But Brandon, thanks so much for coming on the show, man.
Dylan, happy to be here, brother. Happy to hopefully share some gems with your audience and level everyone up.
Let's go. Let's go. So I'd love to just start from the beginning. Tell me a little bit about your background and how did you get into exploring some of this work in your own life, and how did you then translate that into a career and helping others achieve their high performance?
Yeah, man, it really started just through my own curiosities. I played football in high school. Uh, was generally, a normal kid, but also dealt with anxiety, low self-esteem, low confidence. I think something that's relatable to a lot of young men, especially now. Then I went on to college, and my freshman year, I rode the bench. So I was immediately kind of looking for solutions to get on the field. And I was already pretty dialed with workouts and nutrition and supplements. And so I went searching for something additional, something else I could do to try to get better at football. And that led me actually to a supplement shop looking for the next magic pill. And it happened to be that the manager of this shop was someone who was deep into research around neuroscience. He was a modern day mystic. He'd studied a lot of modalities in Eastern Chinese medicine, philosophy, things of that nature. And so when I went in there looking for the magic pill, he gave it to me just in a very unconventional manner. He started to dig in a little bit onto just like my desires and what were the core root issues, and asked me questions no one really asked me before, because at the time, mental health wasn't a conversation. Nobody talked about anxiety or depression. It was just, but just like play, just go, just do at that point. And so he started giving me some awareness into my own inner experience, and he started teaching me some tools, and at the time very basic meditation tools, basic mindfulness, learning to use my breath to bring myself back into the present moment. One exercise in particular he gave me was, and if people aren't driving or operating heavy machinery, they can try this right now, just looking off through the peripheries of your eyes and then breathing slowly in and out of your nose. And you'll
Yeah,
notice
I feel
it,
that.
it immediately puts you into the present moment.
Yeah.
So if you're someone who deals with a lot of anxiety, fear, worry about the future, or constantly dwelling about what didn't go right in the past, regrets, and so forth, that one exercise will bring you right into the present. And so that was like me kind of having my Neo from the Matrix moment, going like, wait, there's a different way of living. There's a different way of being and operating. And so from there, I was just hooked. I went down the rabbit hole with this guy. He taught me how to meditate. He taught me how to shift my brain waves into different states to be more optimal for creativity, for high performance in sports, for school, and everything. And so, like that freshman year in college, I got like a 2.3 GPA, rode the bench on the football team, didn't get to play. Like it was just like big time failure across the board. And then I came back the next year with these tools after training for 6-7 months or so, and I was a starter on the team. I had standout performances. I led the team in tackles for multiple games. I was defensive player of the game. It was just a 180 completely. And it all came down to these techniques that he had taught me. And this was nothing that I ever had heard of before. And so I was just really full of curiosity of like, why don't they teach this to football players on my team? Like if every one of us did this, we'd be such a better team. And so, and why don't they teach us in school? Because everyone would be so much higher performing, in the school, in the schoolroom as well, if we were teaching these stuff. So I just got fascinated with that and started studying it. And there wasn't really a clear route to study this in school. I could have gone into sports psychology, but really they weren't teaching the techniques that I was learning, which were much more potent than some of just the normal basic stuff like positive self-talk or imagery or goal setting, which is all good stuff, but it's just kind of low level stuff compared to what you can really get into once you start exploring some of the more advanced modalities. And so went on, created my own self-designed major, the mental aspect of human performance. Um, got a research grant to actually put some of this stuff into practice, and ran my own study at school, and started to use a bunch of other college students as my guinea pigs and use them to actually see how I could decrease anxiety in college students, had success there, and actually increase bench press performance. Because what I found was there was a bunch of literature showing how we could increase strength performance through just different visualization techniques. So I just amped up these techniques and had the people in my study use them for the bench press to help them get stronger just on their bench press. And so that's what was most interesting to me. Keep in mind, I'm still a dude who at this point, I'm running this 21 years old. So my top priorities are still, how can I get the most gains? How can I get the most girls? How can I just do what's interesting to me? So I'm just pursuing my curiosities and my passions at the time. And that's what I've just continued to do. And so I really discovered this around 15, 16 years ago, and I haven't looked back since. There's been a lot of detours for me to get to where I am now, where I get to share these tools with professional athletes, and we'll definitely get into that. But that was kind of the origin story, the jumping off point for getting into this field.
I love it, man. That's so fascinating, and especially that you were such a pioneer at the time that there wasn't a lot of places where you could go to study this. So you kind of had to map your own education and build your own laboratory and do your own experiments. I think that's fascinating. Like, I oftentimes find entrepreneurs or people that just get so passionate about an idea that they have to start a company, or they have to write a book, or they have to go to the level that you have, which is like dedicate your life to it. And I've also, through listening and watching a lot of your content, you've used yourself as a guinea pig and experimented a lot on yourself as well. So yeah, I just think that's fascinating. So I want to take a quick, just slight detour and talk about how you and I met. We met over email, but I was invited to be a podcast, one of the official podcasts at Gary Vee's conference in Los Angeles at VCon a few weeks ago that you were a speaker at. I got to catch a little bit of your talk, but we didn't get a chance to meet in person. But you and I connected afterwards to get the show on the books. Just curious, how'd you come into Gary's world? What does Gary mean to you personally? Give me your Gary Vee kind of take in mind.
My connection there.
Yeah.
So one of my buddies that I met at South by Southwest in like 2013 was a past employee at Vayner, and him and I've just stayed close over the years. And he just always knew that I wanted to pursue mental performance for professional sports. And he was still decently close with AJ Vaynerchuk, so Gary's brother, who went on from VaynerMedia and started Vayner Sports. And so he's like, hey, do you want to be connected with AJ? And I said, yeah, absolutely. I would love to. So he connected with AJ, and AJ and I hit it off. And I've been coaching AJ for almost like 4.5, going on 5 years now as a one-on-one client in the coaching work I do. So that was my initial connection. And then I started working with Vayner Sports a little bit, working with some of their agents, some of their employees, some of their athletes over the past couple of years. And then slowly, I guess Gary heard the good things, and I've been able to get into his ecosystem a little bit. And this past year, I've been working with his executives at the mental performance level. So that's kind of how I got into his world. And then the VFriends thing, I was coaching just the president of VFriends. So, I was like, can I come? He was like, yeah, sure.
Let's
really
go.
simple as that, Yeah.
So good. Yeah, that's awesome. No, I'm always fascinated because I've followed Gary for a long time, and I think he's one of those just, market making forces within the advertising and marketing world that I spend a lot of my time with, and a lot of my listeners do. So we've done a lot on the show dissecting VCon and some of the surrounding elements. So I appreciate your contribution there.
I like Gary. I think I would love to hear him talk more about, like, I think he's a deeply spiritual guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that gets talked about as much, because that's really that's where I play the most. I
Yeah.
call it mental performance, so it's more like the deeper spiritual work. And I think Gary is very much tapped in there, but he just doesn't talk about it because like it's kind of like he knows what he's tapped into, but he meets the market where they're at. So I think that's one interesting thing that I think will be interesting. I'm sure at some point that'll be more of a topic of conversation.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, you definitely get from the sense of being a part of his community, and if you follow him, that he deeply cares about people and he cares
Yeah.
about the people that follow him. Not unlike you, he cares very much about unlocking the best in people and giving everybody very useful and practical tools to put one foot in front of the other and just to start a journey in the direction of trying to improve their lives, whether that's as an entrepreneur, as a parent, as an employee. I think, it just sometimes it doesn't take a lot to have a big breakthrough. It's something that I want to ask you about later in the show, but I'll maybe just jump into it and get your thoughts on it. I've never considered myself a morning person, and I've always tried to like build good habits around getting up early, going to bed early, being productive, and not wasting time on things that I would consider like, watching TV or playing video games or something like that. And I got in a really good habit after attending Jocko Willink's conference. The Navy, he's got the muster where everybody shows up and learns about how the Navy SEALs and the discipline that they have can apply to your business life. I went to the muster here in San Diego. I'm still wearing the
Yeah. What was
bracelet.
that like?
Oh, bro, it was next level. I mean, just the community of ex-military, law enforcement, first responders. It's just such a such a crowd that I just feel embarrassed to even be like in the presence of, right? Because like these people have done so much and sacrificed so much, and they do a job that's a lot harder than influencer marketing, in my opinion, or marketing and things of that nature. But so many lessons to learn from the parallels between like what the military does to train people to be the defenders of our country and to keep us safe at home, and how a lot of those lessons apply to things that you can do in your life to both from a personal and professional perspective. But the one that like really was eye-opening for me is they did a 4:30 a.m. workout. So I wanted to be all in. So I got up at 3:30. I drove down to the hotel, worked out at 4:30, did an hour's worth of calisthenics with a bunch of SEALs, in front of the hotel. And then by 6:30 a.m. I was in the sauna. By the time I got out of there, like the world hadn't even woken up yet, and I had accomplished so much. And something clicked in my mind, and I started waking up naturally from that point forward between 4:30, 5:30, 6:30, getting my exercise done in the morning. I had like broken the curse or the idea that I wasn't a morning person.
Mm.
And I don't know what it was at somewhere between then that lasted like for months and months for me, but somewhere I lost it. And now I'm like getting up later again, wasting time at night, even having a hard time going to sleep. So I'm wondering if maybe some of the stuff that you do can maybe tap into some of those. Can you reprogram things like that, like people's sleep cycles and stuff?
Well, I would ask why. Like, why?
Yeah.
What is why? Yeah. Because what's most important, in my opinion, is that you're fueled by inspiration. Because
Mm,
anything that feels like obligation, like I have to do it, it's going to be really hard. It's going to take a lot of force to make it stick.
yeah.
Right. Because even people who do really hard things, like this is my whole thesis, working with all these professional athletes, high level business people, is like they give you this story of it's just discipline and hard work and they're forced themselves to do it. I call bullshit.
Wow.
I think that it's in them. I think that there's an inspiration inside of them and they just have this motor that they don't have a choice, that they have to do it. And then they're kind of more reverse engineering, telling you, well, I just have this incredible discipline to do it. That's my thesis on this.
Yeah, no, I love that, man. I mean, I think, motivation is powerful. And I think the part that I did really love about that period of my life is I wasn't even setting an alarm clock. It was
There
just
you go.
happening. It was like I got reprogrammed. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So
well,
what I would do is
yeah,
I would own that you're right then and maybe you're right now. If you're still like, maybe you wanted to wake up because you want to get your workouts in. Well, if you're still getting your workouts in,
yeah,
maybe you're right then and you're right now. And that was like a nice season for you to do that. And you're connecting to some inspiration to wake up earlier and create that sacred space for yourself. And maybe you'll do it again in the future, but also just being attuned to where that inspiration is right now. Because sometimes our energy is just going in different places and it's being utilized for different things. So sometimes like I'm going hard on this like big morning ritual and I'm really going inward. And maybe there's other seasons where you're traveling a lot more, or maybe you're really busy with your kids and you're just pouring energy into other places. And so it's being attuned to where that inspiration really lies and where you want to pour that energy.
yeah. No, that's a great insight. Maybe it's not so much about the rigorousness of the schedule and more about, what are your priorities at that particular time and season of life. And I since then started my own company 5 months ago, and I've been as busy as I've ever been before. So maybe I just need, a little bit of extra rest right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It takes a lot of energy to start a business. And so sleep is the number one way to replenish that energy. So you need it. No doubt
Yeah.
about it.
Well, I'm excited to have found some of your sleep meditations. I'm definitely
There
planning
you
on.
go. I hope they work. I hear some good things.
I hear good things. My wife tried one last night. I didn't ask her for the results, but I'll find out shortly.
Nice.
So, I find it fascinating how much that you focus on meditation. The idea that human performance is really tied to some of these deeper spiritual truths. I'm a person of faith. I read the Bible in the morning as kind of my main liturgy that I, get tied into to kind of, awaken my spiritual curiosity in the morning. I try to do it every single day. Try and read the Bible from cover to cover once a year, which is kind of a fun exercise in itself. But I do. There was a period of time, like just with my environment, where I would have the reading stuff dialed in, whether it was like inspirational types of books, daily calendar, reflections. I've been sober for 10 years, so I kind of like tap into the AA literature from time to time. Um, but then I was also meditating more in my old home that had like a more comfy area for my office where I could like sit down, be cross-legged, like put on like some music and like really like try and be present and not focus on anything else but my thoughts and my prayers. But what I found is my it's such a stupid thing, but my current office has wood floors. I don't really have a comfy place to go, so I've fallen out of that routine of meditation and prayer, and I'm only doing like the book study stuff. Like but then when I was doing your meditations this week, I just sat here in my chair, threw on the headphones, put my hands in my lap, and it was dialed. So how much do you focus on like environment and like routine and like having kind of that like that room of one's own is like a writer's term, like you have to have like the desk and the pencils and the things, like how much is environment like important, or is that just an excuse and you should be able to dial in and do meditation anywhere?
Yeah, I think having a slower environment definitely is going to make it easier to slow down yourself and create that sacred space. And also the spaciousness, right, in your calendar. If you pack your whole calendar full of meetings and to-do lists and so forth, there's just not going to be any space for it. And so, my goal with all the work that I do is really to help people become meditation, which is where you get to stay in the state of awareness all the time, where like, if you read my book, you get to actually identify in the moment whatever triggers are there as they're coming up, and you're able to transmute them and move through them. That's what you can do when you become meditation. And so I view like the sit down, close your eyes meditation as something that is sometimes more just prescriptive. It's like, you know what? I just can't, that something's really bothering me. I was really triggered. I'm carrying around anxiety. I'm carrying around fear. I'm carrying around just confusion. Okay. Prescribe yourself a meditation and create a sacred space the best that you can based on your ability, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be like every single day, but we have to be attuned to what we need personally. And so prescribe yourself one of those to dig in a little bit and give yourself the space to deal with whatever is coming up for you. And then additionally, I think everyone should just carve out an hour every week to just go in on themselves. And that can
Mm.
look like anything that you want. You know, I literally coach myself the same way I coach my clients, I coach myself, but anyone can do this. It can be getting out a piece of paper and just like journaling or just writing down all the things that are upsetting you in your life right now, all the things you feel like you're not in control of, all the things you're worried about. Just purge, 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 get that out. And maybe you sit in meditation after that. You know, I like to listen to binaural beats, and, you know, they're available on Spotify, YouTube, wherever, for free. You can listen to them. And then you just kind of sit into the things that you're worried about, and you allow yourself to just have space to process them, see what comes up, and then hopefully come up with some inspired action from that, right? Like you get to a state of awareness, or you notice that like some of the things that may have been bother you because you took that time to meditate and kind of sink into your inner world. You've realized, you know what? 3 coffees a day correlates with anxiety. Let's dial it back, right?
Mm.
Or, you know what? I've been suppressing for a while this conversation I need to have with my husband or wife. I need to schedule some time. Like maybe we do a date night, whatever it is. Maybe when the kids go to sleep, we need to have that conversation because I'm feeling resentful and I haven't been able to put my finger on where it's coming from. And now that I've had this sacred space of meditation, to journal, to think, to go inward, now I can see, okay, it's because of this, and this conversation needs to happen. And so I think just at least once a week, take an hour and just go in on yourself and see what comes up, and see first, like what's there, gain awareness over it through journaling, through meditating, whatever modality you prefer, and then see what inspired action comes from that. Because there's always going to be something. There's going to be something you should probably stop doing, right? Whether it's like, oh, I'm drinking too much coffee, or, you know, I'm taking too many Zins and this is
Oh,
giving
you
me
saw my background.
a dopamine crash, right? Or
Guilty.
you got the Zins, yeah. And I think just like slowing down enough, we get to come to a place of awareness where it's like we're not necessarily making anything we're doing wrong or bad, but just attuning our actions to what we know is going to be the best for ourselves and what we want.
Yeah, no, I love that, man. I think, you know, just that reflective time. I think how do you process how to get better if you don't take time to look at what you did right, what you did wrong? I mean, maybe you don't even have to make those judgment calls, but just be self-reflective. If you don't carve out time for that, then there's no way to improve. So I love that insight. Um, I wanted to jump to this concept that I heard in one of your videos that I thought was very interesting. You know, we always are being told that the ego is a bad thing.
Yeah.
We're conditioned a lot by, you know, kind of Eastern methodologies or modalities that, you know, the killing of the ego, the suppression of the ego, the subservantism of the ego is the ultimate goal. But then you talked a bit in some of your content about how the ego is our human experience. Like we will have time in the afterlife to experience what it's like to not have an ego, but
Yeah.
we are here on this earth for a period of time. We have people to serve, we have jobs to get done, we have an impact to make, and the ego is part of that experience. So I would love to just hear more from you of, you know, how do you reconcile with that kind of I suppose, dirty word that the ego has become, and how do you use the ego in a way that is positive for you and the people around you in your life?
Yeah. Well, I think what's happened is people confuse ego and egotistical, right?
Mm,
There's no
good
problem
one.
with
Yeah.
the ego, right? There's no problem. The ego is really just, it's a mechanism that holds our persona, right? There's nothing wrong with that. And anyone who's gone through an ego death, whether they've gone through a near-death experience in life or they've done it through psychedelics or whatever it may be, you know that once your ego dies, you have no sense of self. So you're not you anymore. And I'm not, your soul is still there, but you're not going to be interacting with this 3D world anymore, right? You're going to go somewhere else. So if you want to be here in this incarnation, which we're all here to enjoy, you need the ego. Because I've gone through multiple ego deaths. And when my ego dies, it's okay. Lights are out. When I come back, the ego's there. So you can't kill the ego when you're in this incarnated state. And trying to suppress the ego, I think, just leads to self-suppression and leads to confusion and guilt and shame. What we want to do is we want to build a healthy ego, right? So we want to see, okay, what is a healthy ego? A healthy ego is one that is aligned with God, the higher power, one that is operating from a place of inspiration and is operating from a place of a clear and clean inner planet. And so what I mean by that is we all live in these inner worlds. And this is one of like the main teachings I got from my sensei that really just transformed my life. He just taught me that like we all live in these inner worlds, and depending on what's on your inner world or in your inner world, it's going to basically be a filter for all the external world. And so your inner world is shaped by your beliefs, right? And so everything that you believe to be true, you will make it true. You will delete, distort, or generalize information to make that true for you. And that's why we know right now we're going through an election cycle. If someone believes they're on the right side, it doesn't matter what information you give them. They will delete it, they will distort it, or they'll generalize it to show you that their information is true. It doesn't matter what the information is, right? It's about their beliefs. I'm on this side. My side's the right side. So you couldn't tell me any information that would make it not right. Right? And so that's how the beliefs are filtering our external world. And so we have to make sure that all of our beliefs are in alignment in a way that allow us to connect with God, connect to a higher power, whatever you believe in the universe, whatever you want to call it, and allow yourself to be that vessel for the higher power to work through in a clean way. The way it gets clogged up inside of you is when you have self-destructive beliefs. So this would be egotistical, right? If you believe you are better than another person, right? If you believe that other people are subservient than you, that's egotistical, right? And so that's where the problem is, but it's not your ego. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great. I love that differentiation between just the fact that we have an ego, and that's part of our human experience and where we operate, and then the idea of being an egotistical person or a narcissist or a sociopath, some of those behaviors that come from the ego that then get into extremes and become negative.
That's just programming, right? Like we're like it's like, all right, we have a great piece of software, but then like there's some like broken piece of code in the software. Well, like the software itself is not wrong. Like we need the software to run the hardware. We need the software, right? The ego is a software that's going to run our hardware. But if there's a few broken pieces of code, let's go in there and fix them. Let's not just say that all the software is wrong. Because again, like if we were a computer and you got rid of all the software, well, the computer wouldn't do anything. The computer is going to stay off. It's going to serve no purpose.
I love that. So I was listening to one of your meditations around sleep, and you identified and hit on this point of like gratitude often will help you, like in the meditation of when you're trying to relax and get to sleep. Why is it important for us to reflect on what we're grateful, especially when we're trying to put our body in a sense of peace and to be ready to go to rest and shut it down for the night?
Yeah. Well, because gratitude is that frequency of more than enough, of safety, of everything's okay, which basically sends a signal to the body to go into the rest and relaxed state, the parasympathetic nervous system, where you can shut down, right? Versus if you're laying in bed trying to go to sleep at night and you believe that you don't have enough money to keep the doors open in your business, you don't have enough money, you don't have enough money, you don't have enough money. That's the opposite of gratitude, right? That's scarcity. And so that is going to start to get your sympathetic nervous system fired up. That's going to get your body, your heart beating faster. The wheels turning in your brain. You're going to be up all night because your brain is getting the message that, hey, it is not okay. We are not safe. There's not enough. And so we want to do the opposite, right? That's why we use gratitude to put us in the states like, hey, we're safe right now. We have food in our belly, a roof over our head. The temperature is fine. There's no predators around. Be grateful for all that is here because, yeah, maybe there's some numbers in a computer somewhere that say that like you've got to take some actions and show some initiative. But like when you need to sleep, you need to be in that state of gratitude for what actually is present, the reality that you are experiencing, not the reality that you're afraid of experiencing in the future.
Yeah, I love that. I think just kind of going through that Maslow's hierarchy of like, just as Americans, we tend to be pretty blessed and not always realize what we have that a good portion of the world doesn't. And if you just slow down and turn off the doomsday, videotape, like what is actually wrong right now? What's giving you anxiety? Why can't you go to sleep? Why is what's the the tape that you're playing in your mind that is projecting things that may never happen ever? At least that's my experience. I think it comes from that's a byproduct of alcoholism. I think I tend to take situations and future trip into things that aren't ever even remotely possible. And take small problems and try and play out these fantasy worlds in which like somebody, was rude to me at work. And then I'm contemplating like some corporate takeover, 10 years in the future. And sometimes just getting back to like, hey, nothing has happened yet. And chances are it probably won't. And everything in my life is pretty darn good if I take inventory of what is in my world at this very moment. So I love that insight. I'm going to try and practice that more often, especially as I try to get into this better sleep rhythm. So I want to take a detour into affirmations, which I think are really cool. I've got a little stack of cards that I got from my chiropractor. Actually made these. He's got ones around finances, ones around family life and relationships, and a few different cool affirmations. And the goal is to read them 3 times out loud, right? And depending on how many people are in the house, I'll either read them to myself just quietly one time. But if everybody's out of the house and I don't feel embarrassed, I'll rip on them. I'll like read them all 3 out loud with like a good chunk of energy. And I probably do that maybe 50-50 split or something like that. But man, when I do it the right way, it just works so much better. It seems to manifest in my life more often. I believe the things that I'm saying. It tends to have an energizing effect on my day because I try and do them in the morning when I do my other reading. Just curious if you could comment a little bit on affirmations, but the fact that affirmations need to be done with a level of intensity and energy to kind of activate them and make them work.
Yeah. I think the purpose that affirmation can serve are to direct your focus on what you want. Right? Because what you focus on is what you get. I think there's actually better ways to go about it. I can talk about some of those.
Sure.
I think we have to build this awareness that's going to allow us to actively focus on what we want. So an exercise I give my clients when they first start working with me is to set alarms on their phone to go off every 3 hours. And these alarms will progress over a matter of weeks. The first week, the alarm's just going to ask them, how does it feel to be me right now? And this is just to bring awareness to their feelings, build that muscle, being able to feel their feelings. Especially men oftentimes struggle to actually feel their feelings. They might be like, oh, my shoulder hurts, or, well, this is not going well at work. And it's like, well, those aren't feelings, right? So build the muscle of feeling your feelings. Then the next step is noticing after you realize the feeling, what were you focused on right before that feeling emerged? And then bring awareness to how your focus shifts your feelings, and seeing how what you focus on is what you get, because two things can be true at the same time, right? Depending on what you're focused on. So you could be in a situation, and depending on what you're focused on, it's going to create a different emotion. If you're focused on how there's not enough, you're going to be feeling anxious. If you're focused on, hey, look, in this way, there is more than enough, right? If you're focused on there's more than enough right now, then you're going to feel grateful and abundant. If you're focused on, well, there's more than enough right now, but I don't know if there will be in the future, then you're going to feel anxious. So just get awareness there. And then the third step to this, usually the third week I give this to my clients, is to notice the feeling, then the focus. And then if your feeling is negative, then flip your focus and actively, because this is how you do it in real time, because it's true that we have 95% of the same thoughts every single day, and 80% of those thoughts on average are negative. And so we actually have to kind of rewire our brain to actually notice when we are focusing on what we don't want, creating a negative emotion, and then flip it. And you do that in the real time, you start to build that mental muscle. So this is like the basic level stuff that we start with. Now, if you want to go beneath the surface and you want to create lasting change where you never have to say an affirmation again, it's just in you, that's where we get into the subconscious programming. Because where are your thoughts coming from? They're bubbling up from beneath the surface, right? Our conscious mind with our thoughts can only process a few bits of information per second, whereas the subconscious processes millions of bits of information per second and holds on to what we actually believe to be true. And it's just a matter of like what external stimulus is going to push the button that's going to bubble it up and expose it as a thought in our mind, right? And so you can't control your thoughts. You can't do that. But what you can do is you can follow the feeling into your body, and you can uncover what you're believing to be true that's making you feel that way. And then you can transmute that belief once and for all, and then it's done. You'll never have to do it again.
Wow.
So that's how you create lasting change. And yeah, I didn't want to, do a poo-poo party on the affirmations, but like this is how we go beneath the surface. And even better than just conscious affirmations, when I do this with my clients and I help them rewrite their entire subconscious, and just this is how we pull out every single mental block that creates fears, anxieties, any form of suffering. We transmute it and we reclaim the energy, because energy can't be created nor destroyed. So we take that negative belief, we empower it, we flip it to the opposite, and then I have them record an audio with their own voice, because that's who we're listening to every day in our own head, reading out all of these new beliefs, and then listening to them when you're waking up in the morning, when you're falling asleep at night, because you drop into an alpha state when you're falling asleep or when you're waking up. So it allows them to accept at a deeper level. So that's kind of like my recipe for transmuting beliefs. And actually that's because people are like, oh, think positive. You can't though. Like it's not. What you can do is you can flip your focus, and that's going to create a better feeling. But that's kind of like a Band-Aid, and it's good for awareness at first. Eventually you have to go beneath the surface and be like, well, where are these negative thoughts coming from? Let's deal with the root issue of them.
And are those negative thought reprogramming sessions, are those done in kind of the way that you do the videos, like in like a state of hypnosis, or is that like a conscious exercise?
Yeah, I mean, I drop people into a much more relaxed state. So it can be very similar to a hypnotic state, but the individual is going to do all the work for themselves, because I like to have people, like, I could just do it for them, but I like to have people empowered in the process of actually choosing the new beliefs that they want. And so people are part of that process with me, although they are at a very relaxed state that's close to hypnosis.
Very cool. What is flow state and how do we get into it?
Yeah. Flow state is being in that optimal state of functioning in the present moment for doing whatever it is, your discipline or craft, right? So I work with a lot of athletes. Flow state for a pitcher is just every single pitch, nothing else exists on planet Earth except for the pitch in their hand and the wind up and the execution of that pitch. Right? Flow state for someone who's in sales is that nothing else on planet Earth exists except for the inspiration that's coming through them in that moment to make that sale in that conversation. That flow state for the programmer is nothing else exists except for that code that they're writing. And so really flow state is being able to ground yourself in this physical plane, connect to the mother, but then also be able to open yourself as a vessel, connect to the father, and channel that energy in the present moment. Boom. Because there's no control or thought in flow state. It's an allowing. It's something that, and that's why, I think a lot of people now have learned a decent amount about flow state. If you haven't, you're not going to get into flow state doing something that you've never done before. It's something that is very specific to things you have a lot of competence around, right? Like if you are learning a new language, you're not going to be in flow state trying to speak that language. It's going to be a little bit clunky. But if you speak a language fluently and you can get into a flow state, an incredible conversation with someone where time and space disappears. We've all been in those types of conversations where everything disappears. And it's like you're talking to this person, it feels like minutes and maybe it's hours go by. And so that's how you get into flow state. It's a high level of competency around a skill or your ability to perform a certain discipline, and then being able to let go of everything else. And that's why it's so important to remove these mental blocks, because of the number one hindrance to being in flow state, because you can't be in flow state in the future and you can't be in flow state in the past. It only happens right now. So if you have a mental block that's trying to force you into the future, being anxious, fearful, concerned, nervous, you're going to be pulled out of it. If you have a block that's pulling you into the past, making you try to replay something in your mind, wishing it would have went different, regretting something, it's going to pull you out of the flow state. So that's why it's so crucial. A lot of the athletes I work with come to me to remove those mental blocks. So the only thing that's left is that present moment that allows them to drop in there. And there definitely is a little bit of magic that goes on there, a little bit of divinity when you're able to get into that state, that because you can't control it, right? It isn't a button that you can push. It's something that's happening when you create the right conditions for it.
Yeah, you're doing that thing you were meant to do in some ways.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, love that. So you had another meditation that was focused on like kind of a morning routine and getting yourself set up for like a good day. And one of the things that I really related to was during a part of the meditation, you coached us to think of like the hardest thing that we would the thing on our list that is giving us the most amount of anxiety, the thing that is hard, and picture yourself, eat the frog, right? Like picture yourself doing that hard thing. My sales manager, when I used to cold call 100 attorneys every day, and they were hard guys to deal with, short attention spans, time is money. A lot of them were scary people. The guy that put away the DC snipers and stuff like that, was one of them, was my client. And my sales manager used to always come into the office. He'd be like, Dylan, call the guy that you're most scared of calling first. And then everything from there will feel easy. And it'll put you in once you get over that mental block, that's the call that you're avoiding, and you call them and you have what you think is going to be a hard conversation, and maybe it even goes a lot smoother than you thought it was. Everything else after that will feel like, dominoes essentially. So I was just curious if that was is that part of why that's an important exercise, to do something on your list that you're kind of having that mental jujitsu with, and you're avoiding and you're procrastinating around?
Yeah, I think it's just important to you do the thing that you have the most resistance around first, because I think that energy that you have for your day is finite, right? Like if we get to the end of our day and there's like a mentally strenuous task, like you don't want to do it at 5 p.m. or later on, right? It's just like, it's going to be pushed to the next day. And that's fine if it doesn't need to be done. But if it does need to be done, it should go first, because we just don't have that much juice later in the day. And so if it's a work task, definitely do it. If it's a sales call you need to make, if it's a conversation you need to have with someone, just come out the blocks and tackle that first. But someone who struggles a lot with their weight, they need to go get their workout in first. So it really just comes down to where you're weak in your life and that's something I focus on quite a bit. Whenever someone comes in to work with me, I always do a baseline intake. And of course, people who are really successful in their career and their finances, they always want more success in that area. And so sometimes the areas that they don't talk about at all are the weakest. And
Mm.
so that may get exposed, someone's like, you know what, like my physical health the worst, and here are all the issues that's being created for me. And we find out that like, oh, well, actually what's holding you back in your career is like you just don't have energy. Like
Mm.
you need to start to dial in your nutrition, your workout, stuff like that. And so for maybe that person, that eating that frog for them is like going and getting an hour workout in before they do anything else. But maybe for someone else who has a great workout routine, like they have it as a lifestyle, it's like that's not an issue for them. They don't have to work out first. Like they should go do that hard work task first. So it really comes down to individuals and tapping into your own knowing. And like, we're putting out content right now, and I try to be really conscious of what I say, because I know that a lot of people are looking for the information that's going to be the magic pill, the thing that hey, just tell me what to do. The truth is, like, I don't really give blanket advice to anyone about anything, because life is so individual. I've always felt that way, and my intuition has always said that. And like the more I get into the field that I'm in, the more I see it's true. Like how many people say, hey, start your day with a workout. You want to be a successful CEO, start your day with a workout. First thing in the morning, start the workout. It's like, yeah, you can if you want. If that's like if that is your thing that you really struggle with, like Gary Vee, for example, right? Like I know his personal trainer, Mike Vacanti, and um, yeah, me and Mike should have him work out first thing in the morning, because he knows that like Gary never liked to work out. So that's probably the most challenging thing. Like nobody has to make Gary work. He loves working. He's inspired to work. He's inspired to work and solve problems and do all those hard work tasks. But the working out, now that had some resistance. So maybe he should work out first to get that out of the way, right? Because it's going to take the most. Because if he doesn't, it probably won't happen, right? But there might be someone else who, has six-pack abs, but has a negative bank account balance, and like maybe they need to push their workouts the next day, or maybe they should just not work out that day. Maybe they should go for a walk, or just focus on the thing that's actually weaker in their life. Because I don't really believe in balance. I think we just have to identify the areas that are weak, and we kind of have to over index in those areas, and we kind of bounce around from one category to another, and hopefully feeding each one to keep them at a good level.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Is that what your tattoo means? The do the thing one, the do the hard thing?
Do
Yeah.
the thing. So this is another life that I had.
Okay.
So little story about my entrepreneurship journey. Graduating college, I was trying to do this client work. I wanted the course, 22 years old. I was like, sign me up. I should be working with pro athletes. But I couldn't get any of them to work with me. I mean, how do you even meet one of those guys, right? It was completely out of I'd never met a professional athlete. It was so far out of the possibilities. So one of my buddies and I, we started a meditation app company. This is back in 2012. And I started creating mobile applications to put my meditations in. And this is how I was able to start to get my work of mental performance into the world. I just started an app company and did it that way. And so I started there. That business went okay, but I had no experience in entrepreneurship. And so I just assumed that I was just savant with entrepreneurship. So I tried to start 4 other app companies, and then I got in a bunch of debt, failed, had to sell the equity I had in the only meditation app company that was working to start to get out of debt with all the other stuff I got myself into, sold all my worldly possessions, moved down to Medellin, Colombia, hit the reset button on my life. And down there, I started doing some client work again, but I realized that, okay, when I was focusing on one thing, was going okay. So I need to focus on one thing only to be successful. And so a buddy of mine, he was really into jump rope fitness. And so we decided that we were going to combine forces, where he was going to teach jump rope fitness. I was going to teach mindset. We're going to make a YouTube channel. This is going to be our thing, a little brand we're going to have fun with. We're going to do it together. So he met me down in Medellin, Colombia, around 6 months after I had been there, convinced him to move down and meet me. And we started this channel. And well, long story short, we ended up finding that people just love the jump rope workouts and the fitness aspect of it. And so we just rebranded, basically took my passion of the mental performance, put it on the shelf, and just rebranded it to the jump rope dudes and only focused on that. And what I found was a lot of the principles that I was teaching mental performance, even though it wasn't part of the brand, I still needed to use it to coach these people to achieve their fitness goals. And one of the big things was like people were looking for more information. So we just kept saying, no, just do the thing. We're like, two things. Do the 30-minute workouts you put on YouTube, eat in a slight calorie deficit. That's it. Do the thing.
Yeah.
You're going to lose weight. And so we just kept saying, do the thing, do the thing, do the thing. And eventually that became our mantra. And it became a thing. Like I got it tattooed. My buddy has tattooed. A lot of people in the community got it tattooed. And we grew that community to over 1 million subscribers on YouTube, 100 million views, like global community that we traveled around and did workouts with all over the world. A lot of cool stuff. And so that's the origin story of the tattoo.
I love it.
And so I did that up until I started to get traction. Basically got all the way out of debt, built up my savings, and started to work with clients again in the mental performance space, got momentum, and eventually allowed him to buy my equity so I could come back to doing this again.
I love that. Yeah, I represent one of the big jump roping guys, a guy named Ridge Robson. I don't know if you know.
Oh,
Ridge.
yeah, I know Rich. Yep.
Sure.
Very cool.
That's awesome. So, yeah, I mean, I think, it's a very important insight. People get stuck in like researching something to death, and they think more information is the key, more courses, more books, more, working on their business plan. And sometimes it's just do the thing.
Just do it. I mean, people ask me, because of my experience in growing a big YouTube channel, as you can imagine, like so many of my friends or people or clients over the years have been like, oh, I want to start it. And I'm just like, just do it. Just do it. Just do it. And the more they plan and the more they analyze, the more courses they buy, the farther they get away from doing it. And the people who are going to do it, they just do it.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that simple, but they just do. They just do. They just start doing things. And maybe they do consume information and get better at it. But I think what we see is a lot of people who have the most success are kind of pioneers. They're kind of just doing their own thing. And that's why they're being successful. And then we have all the, the industry experts are like, I'm going to tell you how to do it. Here's a blueprint. Here's a roadmap. And it's like, well, it's not a formula. It really isn't. If it was, everyone would do it. So I think people need to put less emphasis on the formula, the information, and more emphasis on just action from inspiration. Just do the thing.
Yeah, I love that. So let's get into some of the marketing stuff, because that's really a big part of what my audience tunes into. You just mentioned this amazing brand and presence that you were able to build on social around a fitness trend like jump roping. You obviously are an influencer yourself, now tied to your personal brand in the performance coaching space. You have many hundreds of thousands of followers across multiple platforms. How important is that social media presence to your core business and how you find clients and building your personal brand?
Yeah. At this point, I would say that just having like a larger number on your social media, and this is going to sound really bad, but like even if you like just pay for that number, which a lot of people do, and I think that, Dylan, like a lot of people, we're not going to name names, but like it's very common. People are just like people pay for a follower count or to have consistent likes put on their posts, comments, shares, whatever it may be. Because when I'm reaching out to professional athlete who I don't know, like they're just looking at, do you have a decent presence? And they'll respond to my DM if I do. If I have nothing, they probably won't. So I've gotten very few clients through social media. Most of my clients come through word of mouth, as you can imagine, just because they want a very personal connection. And even the ones that have come through social media, like I've like known someone that they know. So it's like I have like a soft in. So I have a very unique business because my whole business right now is just one-on-one coaching. It's so different than what I did before the Jump Rope Fitness, where we were doing courses, we were sending jump ropes, We had big group programs. We had a community, completely different model. Now I'm just one-on-one, which means I can't work with many people, which means I don't need that many leads. And so really I'm just relying on referrals for the most part. And then I'm starting to do more on LinkedIn to start to generate some more keynote opportunities. Just getting started with that, so I can't really speak to it. I've also done a lot of guest podcasts. Obviously, I'm doing this here, and I find these to be beneficial for, people checking out my book. And if they like my book, then they're usually interested in at least learning more about what I do and getting involved in my coaching. So, yeah, the biggest levers for me, though, by far, it's been my referrals, just word of mouth. That's number one. That's probably 80% referrals. I would say maybe like 15%, maybe, yeah, like, and referrals also, maybe I'd put that into like any in-person stuff, just like people I meet,
Yeah,
you know,
people
in the
you meet.
world. So
Yeah.
in real life type stuff, off of the internet. So it's like 80%, maybe 15% from guest podcasts or people reading my book. It's been really beneficial to have a book out there. To just share with people what I do. And, some people find it organically. So I've gotten clients from that. And then probably 5% from something to do with social media.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, it's funny because how much effort I think we're all putting into our personal brands and building a following. You have a big one. I have a big one on LinkedIn. I have 30,000 on LinkedIn, but that's the main place that I program this show to. I have a similar experience. It doesn't really come from like inbound from LinkedIn or the show itself, but then I'll go to a conference and people will be like, "Oh, I see you all over my LinkedIn or whatever." It's like
The
this
authority.
yeah, it's a general awareness in my area, my spheres of
Yeah.
influence of who I am and what I do.
And that awareness gives you authority, right? Just the fact
Yeah.
that people know you. Like, I went and spoke at this real estate event last night, and somehow this woman she already followed me on Instagram. She knew about me, right? Like, maybe she never would have been a client, but because of that awareness, it gave me some authority from the jump.
Yeah, there's a touch point, and I imagine, like you said, there's a credibility factor when your referral partners or somebody you meet are like, okay, this guy's legit. He's got a social following. Probably the reason probably helps you get a book deal, publish, sell books when you have a following. Probably helps you get speaking engagements when people see and they're like, all right, he's got a following. So it's like almost like a lot of work to just have like this like number out there on social media, but still important. We all kind of have to build these personal brands in order to be relevant or be thought leaders, I suppose, in our given fields and spheres of influence. So I love that. So we're coming up on an hour. I want to be respectful of your time and not go too far over, but I know you and I talked a little bit at the beginning of the show that you'd be down to maybe do a little coaching from the. So would it be helpful if I threw on some chill background music and shut my eyes?
My guest. I'll light a candle over here.
Let's go.
Set the mood. There we go.
Let's do it.
No, I think when you're meditating or anything, it's good to do something to set the mood. I always light a candle. I got a little Palo Santo with some eucalyptus here too. It gets really intense. And there's some demons.
How's the nature sound vibe treating you?
It's good. Well, I'm here in Florida and it's pouring down rain, so I can hear that. I can't hear your.
All right. Well, hopefully our friends who are tuning in will hear my Amazon rainforest going at it right now.
There we go.
All right. So
all right, boom. Let's dig in, Dylan. Close your eyes. Deep breath in through your nose. Full exhale. Let your shoulders drop and relax away from your ears. Anyone who's listening to this, if you can, just join in. This is going to be beneficial for you too. Allow yourself to sink down into your body. Just arrive. Just arrive here where you are. There's nothing that you need to do right now. Just be. There's nothing you need to think about. Just feel. And as you feel down into your body, I just want you to observe what it feels like to be you right now. And you mentioned earlier on this call, something that struck a chord with me was just like how you constantly get into these cycles of like playing out the worst case scenario. And you mentioned it had something to do with like being in recovery. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So I want you to connect to that fear in your upper stomach, that feeling you get. Maybe you're trying to go to sleep. You're like, well, what if this happens and this happens and this happens? And boom, 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 boom. And you start playing out this worst case scenario. Can you feel that in your upper stomach?
Mm-hmm.
I want you to imagine imagine it's like a big knot in your upper stomach. Oh, doesn't feel good. Like, God, get this out of me. I want you to go sit in the middle of it, sit in the middle of this knot, the discomfort of it, right in the middle of it. I want you to ask yourself, what am I believing to be true about whatever this is that's making me feel so afraid, so worried about the future, so concerned? And so, what is it? What do you believe to be true? It makes you feel so afraid. Go ahead and share with me, Dylan.
Um, I think the main thing is just that, you know,
Stay in the feeling.
God's gonna provide. That I feel like in this season of starting my own company and being an entrepreneur finally for the first time, which is something I've dreamed of my whole life. That I'm going to be able to continue with the momentum that I have and continue and make it work.
Mm-hmm. So you're jumping ahead to what you want to have happen, but I want you to connect to the actual fear that's been living inside of you.
Okay.
So what have you been believing to be true that's been keeping you in a fearful state about this business that you're starting?
That I'm going to lose clients, or I'm going to lose the clients that I have, or not be able to get enough to be successful on my own.
All right. And just allow yourself to accept that, process it in your body right now that it's been said. And if you were to sum it up even more simply, I believe that blah, 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 if I start a business.
I believe that I will not be able to provide for my family if I start a business.
There it is. Now, talk about ego deaths. This is it right here for you. I want you to feel the fear in your upper stomach, connect to it. Feel the sensation of like, oh, I don't even want to talk about this. I want to say it out loud. I don't want to connect to it. This is BS. No, no, no. The rejecting and wanting to resist against this. I want you to actually just accept it as it's true. Because what we can't accept won't change, and what we resist persists. So I want you to just accept that, yeah, it's true. I won't be able to provide for my family. I'm just relying on my own business. Go ahead and say it out loud.
I won't be able to provide for my family by being an entrepreneur and starting this business.
I want you to visualize your life on this timeline. Everything to the right in this timeline is the future, right? We don't know what's going to happen. No one does. Infinite possibilities, good or bad. But we're not there yet. To left is the past in our timeline. Well, we know exactly what happened. It's already done. It's dead. Can't be changed. What you're carrying with you, which is kind of like these weights you're putting on your ankles and your wrists, and you're just carrying this weight around everywhere you go, is this belief that it's living inside of your timeline right in front of you right now that says, yeah, if I won't be able to provide for my family being an entrepreneur, being a full-time entrepreneur. I won't be able to provide for my family being a full-time entrepreneur. And I wanted you to go through the ego death now of just accepting that. And let me know when you actually just accept it. And it's not going to have to be forever, but I want you just for a moment to allow yourself just to accept that, fine, I won't be able to provide for my family being an entrepreneur. And let me know when you've accepted that.
Yeah, I've accepted it.
All right, I want you to visualize this big cloud of energy in front of you. It's full of fear. It's full of letdown, disappointment, all that negative energy floating right there in that cloud right in front of you. I want you to breathe in deeply through your nose. On the exhale, a powerful wind driven by God is moving from right to left. It's going to pick up this cloud of energy and move it to the left, to the left, to the left, to the left, all the way into the past. As it sails off the past, it's dead. It dissolves because the past is dead. You're in the present moment now. And as you're flying through time and space in the present moment, in the eternal now, as you're going through the now, I want you now to choose the opposite belief. What's the opposite of you're not going to be able to provide for your family as a full-time entrepreneur?
That my business will flourish easily. It'll not feel like hard work, and I'll have everything that I need, and I'll be financially secure.
Yeah. I'm going to make it even more simple for you. Repeat after me. I believe I will be able to provide for more than enough for my family as a full-time business owner.
I believe that I will be able to provide more than enough as a full-time business owner.
Breathe it in deeply through your nose. Exhale this energy down through your head, your neck, your shoulders, your upper arms, your lower arms, your hands, your fingers, down through your upper back, your chest, your lower back, your stomach, down to your hips, your thighs, your lower legs, your feet, and your toes. Woo. I want you to feel this energy not start to expand out of your heart into the timeline for your life. We remove the old energy, we're replacing it now with the new energy. And this new energy takes form here in front of you, and it surrounds you in this energetic aura. I want you to feel yourself being held by this energy that says, I believe I will be able to provide more than enough for my family as a full-time business owner. And I want you to say it again.
I believe that I will be able to provide more than enough for my family as a full-time business owner.
Breathe it in. Exhale. Feel the energy settle in your heart. Ooh, it's a big one. It's a big one. It's a big one. Ooh, yep. Just let it settle in your heart. No need to think about it or try to control it. Just allow it to settle down into your body. The eagle has landed. And what are you noticing? How does it feel to be you right now?
Oh man, I mean, I feel like my body's tingling, like when I was really drilling down to the root issue and the problem, like the uncomfortableness, it felt, as gnarly as any therapy session I've ever had. But it definitely does not feel like it's there anymore.
Yeah. And so that's something that, someone who's just listening, they don't really get to feel the energetic experience, but your whole body is tingling. So what's happening is he just went through a massive purge, because it's not just the words. People hear that. That's why it's not affirmation, right? You can't just say, I'm going to be successful in my business. No, what we just did there was deep energy work. We pulled that out of your energy system, removed it. That's what all that tingling was about. And then we transmute it. Now you can feel it. No longer is anxiety, fear there, but now you're free in your heart. And so the job's done. And you can just live in alignment with knowing that you're going to be able to provide more than enough for your family as a business owner.
I love it, man. Well, I am so glad that I came across you at VCon. I'm bummed we didn't get to hang out in person, but hopefully this is the beginning of a relationship, and that I'll get an opportunity to meet you and thank you in person one day. And, I can tell you that I have gained a lot of value in the last 24 hours from not just doing the research on you and watching and listening to your content, but from what we experienced here today on the show. So Brandon, thank you so much for coming on, man. Anything else you want to plug or point people to where they can learn more or get involved with you?
Yeah, the book, Program to Fail. People seem to love it. And I love hearing people's feedback. So if you guys check it out, it's everywhere. It's on Amazon. It's not everywhere, but the audiobook is everywhere. So, Spotify has the audiobooks now. If you have premium, you get to listen to those for free. So it's on there. Audible. I read it. It's on Amazon. I feel like physical books, Kindle, all that good stuff, Google Books. So that's the best way to really start down the path to me. And then if anyone wants to reach out after that, I encourage you to do so.
I love it. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show today. And for those of you who are following along at home, if you enjoyed what we put down today, wherever you're listening or watching, don't forget to subscribe to the show. If you leave us a review, that's how we find an audience more organically. But most importantly, if you've got a friend out there dealing with fear, anxiety, limiting beliefs in their lives, anything that you think, any person that could benefit from the conversation that I had with Brandon today, don't forget to share the show with that person, because that's really how we grow and how we help and reach more people. So with that being said, Brandon, thank you so much, man. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Look forward to your shining star and continue to follow along with the content and the things that you're putting out into the world. So thanks again so much for coming out.